Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested to migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the little bell on the side? So once we have all the news and updates, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video, I would like to take, as the topic says, the EOID skill migration for 2022 in detail of explaining how the skill select system works. Now to start with, I would like to give you a little bit of scenario, a theme. It's easier to understand how this visa system works for skill migrations. It's like going to an interview, to a job interview. So of course, you wanted to prepare as much as you can, as best as you can, so you can actually earn and win that job, right? Okay, so there will be a lot of candidates going for a job interview. Obviously, there's only gonna be few to be selected, just like how the skill select system works. So all you're required to do is to prepare as much and as best that you can. This is how the system works. And prior to that, obviously, the mandatory requirement is obviously you need to have an IELTS 6 across board. So they called it under the definition of competent English. And also you need to get a skill assessment done. Without a skill assessment, you cannot even log into a skill select system. Anyway, that's today. We would like to take a little bit of glimpse to the Home Affairs webpage, which it has a little bit of explanations, but obviously it's a boring web page. It doesn't say too much, but it does give you a little bit guideline. But what I'm going to do with today's approach, I'm going to take you into the actual system, how the policy will actually work. So this is actually inside of the immigration system, how the case officer, immigration officer, assess and utilize with a lot of details. I would like to take this opportunity in this video to go through all this with you. So I'm on this page, which is the most current one on the most updated system on December 11th. That's the most current what do I say, version. Okay, so onto the topic of skill select, expression of interest, skill migration. So it's a procedural instruction. What does that mean? That is the instruction given to the immigration officer to actually utilize. So what we're gonna see is the last change was back in 16 November 2019. So obviously there's a change of, I think, the category of a visa from 489 to 491. Remember, so that's about then. And the mandatory review day is gonna be end of this year. Interesting. Anyway, let's have a look. So there's a lot of instruction here. Now, I'd like to, you would like to have this video as like a library, and my goal was to make this channel to be Australian visa library. So anything that you want to seek for about visas for Australia, you probably can find in this channel. Okay, so let's go through each one of them. So instructions, introduction, not instruction, but it's the instruction, policy instruction for the immigration officer. And the scope, as you can see, this is procedural instruction, describe how to implement an overarching policy in relation to this visa category or categories, and is applicable nationally and internationally. It is addressed the officer administering migration law, in particular those officers who are ministerial delegates. Other person reading PI, the procedural instructions, should keep in mind that they are not primary audience. So that means basically it's not for you to have a good read, but this is actually what's happening behind the scene. I think this is much a better view for a lot of interest who wanted to migrate through the skill migration program. All right, so the instruction, strategic context. Let's jump into the actual procedures and the process. So about skill select. So skill select is, let's just have a look. This probably is about the same as what you probably can read from the immigration webpage. So it says the skill select is an online service that enables skilled workers or business person from overseas to express their interest in migrating to Australia. So it's used for the skill migration program to submit an expression of interest, naming EOI. The intending migrants need to include information about their skill, business information. That's for investors' visas. Skill select then issue invitation to apply for visa based upon the ranking. Now this is very important. This is not guaranteed. You don't put in there and you will be given the opportunity to submit. Now in the past, yes, that was the previous system, just like how the system in US still work like this way. So as long as you submit it, you'll be they will process it. But the skill select is a system where they pick the best. You're being ranked. Okay, so pass mark subject to ceiling occupation number. Skill select also enables staff of immigration of certain state or territory government. So that's state government. Agency in Australia to view relevant information intending migrant EOI. This information assists state and territory government agency in Australia to identify intending migrants who they may nominate to help the labor market needs. So again, this is an open pool. Basically, it's like job interview. There's so many candidates in that pool, and it's open for the state government, territory governments, Australia, and also obviously the federal government to actually view and see, wow, who's the best. You're all being ranked, and then they picked whichever, but they don't really tell you what they are gonna pick. They only release information to tell you who has been picked in the past. Obviously you can see those data from the web page. So the process is a 3-stage process. Intending migrant expression and interest, so that's EOI, that you put in your EOI to apply for relevant skill or business visa. And then the second stage is eligible intending migrant may be invited. So through that pool of candidates and within different category of visas or states or skills, then the government or Australia, they were picked, and so once they picked you, the state government agency of Australia can access limited information contained in skill select where intending migrant has indicated their interest. Visa subclass requiring state or territory nomination. Access information skill select is in accordance to relevant privacy and anti-discrimination law. So there is, I'm not too sure how that will work, but that basically means some of the information in the skill select or expression might not be published to the state territory government. I'm not too sure why they do that. Anyway, once they like it, they will invite you. So once invited to apply visa, the intending migrant has 60 calendar days, so that's 2 months, to lodge your application. Okay. Now, so stage one, this table is I think it's very good. I'm not too sure why they don't do this on the actual immigration website, but they are making it much more easier for immigration officer to read and understand. So while I put that over there so you can have a look, you might want to screenshot this page as well. I'm sorry that I'm actually covering these two yeses at the back here, but anyway, let's scroll down a bit and have a look at the whole view. So the threshold eligibility criteria complete an EOI. So there's 189, 190, 491, and 491 regional sponsor. So regional sponsor is more for the family sponsorship, so that you can see all the ages is under 45, and occupation. So 189 is more on the medium long term skill select list. Okay, and the 190, it's actually combined, and it really depends. Now the 190's occupation list is a mess now, because every state have their own list, so this is not really correct. So as for 491 as well, and that is a problem there. I'm not too sure how that it's actually very complicated, but if you want to know every single state's their criteria, I do have a list of all these state and territories criteria done in the YouTube video form or Facebook. If you want, you can actually search it and find them. Okay, so skill assessment, yes, all of them require skill assessment and English ability. You have to be at least competent. Okay, and the complete point test self-assessment. So obviously, if you've done all that, you have to be, at least 65 points. Otherwise, you cannot do anything with it. So requires state and territory government nominations. So obviously, only 189 is not, because 189 is for federal government, for the Department of Immigration to consider. Claiming family sponsor, only the last bit for the 491 regional, as you can see there, and willingness to reside in regional, only the last two 491, because 491 is created for regional skill migrants. Okay, so threshold for complete EOI, this is for business and the investor visas. It's actually a bit more complex than this. I'm not going to go through all of this, but if you do have interest about the business innovation visas, I've done a list and series of these visa introductions and detail. You might want to search in my channel as well. Okay, so stage 2, once you get invited, you apply. So that's a no-brainer. So I don't think anyone will get that wrong. But problem is, some people do put in incorrect information. Now, I'm not going to say fraud, but incorrect information could lead to PIC 4020. For example, the expression of interest may ask whether or not you have done your skill assessment. You may tick yes, whilst you probably haven't done it. You just want to give a go. And the detail may say, all right, so what sort of skill you might, choose them because it's in the selection boxes. If you submit that, and if you somehow been invited and you cannot provide the document that you said that you had, then that will be a fraud and misleading information that you have submitted to immigration. And then that will trigger PIC 4020, and that means potentially 5 to up to 10 years you cannot even have any visas into Australia. So that's very serious. So do not do that. Do not do that. Okay, don't give it a try. It's not a simple system to actually let you to play with. Okay, so the status of EOI, there's a draft. Draft means you punch things in, and you haven't submitted it. Okay, and the submitted, it means that you click submitted. Okay, suspended, how you can suspend them. Okay, just leave it, because some people don't want to live in a pool. Invited means you get invited by the government. Lodged means you have invited, and within that 60 calendar days you have pressed a button and pay and lodged it. And close means that the case is finished. If finished can be it's either finalized, submitted, or has been expired and gone. It's no longer there. Okay. 2 invitation to apply visa have expired, or EOI has been selected for 2 years. Intending migrant withdrawn, and the visa application resulting in invitation being finalized. Okay, so completing an EOI, there are numbers of factors and information required to be put in if you have done it before, but let's have a look. It's pretty easy. It's a basic bio data, so that's all your information on your passport, country of citizenship, relationship, so whether or not you're married, single, separated, divorced, prepared to live in, work in regional. Are you prepared to do that? So that's an option for you to tick. Your occupation, your partner's qualification, okay, and your qualification and your experience. How many years have you done? And you need to put that in detail. Again, don't bluntly put in anything that you think it will assist you, but everything that you put in here has to have supporting evidence to back it up. So if you put, I've been working in an ABC company for several years as a CEO, right? Now, once you get invited, you'll be asked to provide that sort of information. Now, if you would never been employed as a CEO on that ABC company, that would be a misleading statement. Again, that would trigger PIC 4020, and you probably will be banned not to invited you to come to Australia. That's including tourist and travel visa. English language ability, skill assessment, and your community language For business and investors visa, you put in your investment history on business asset or company, and detail like sales, turnover, and things like and your asset, or for example, how much share that you actually acquire in that business or company. Okay, so submitting EOI, that's a no-brainer. Just put it in and submit. Locating an intending migrant when EOI submitted it. An intended migrant can be in or out of Australia. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, I'm offshore now. Do I get invited?" Oh, because of the virus. Not thank God, but look, we have been doing this for 2 years with the virus and pandemic going around. It's actually very hard for government to actually accept and start open to invite offshore applicants. Anyway, hope that will be open very soon. So you can be in and out. An intending migrant issue an invitation to apply, so it's the same procedures. No evidentiary requirement. An EOI is a statement. Remember, it's a statement. There is no required to put in any supporting evidence. Now, there's a differences between the EOI for skilled migrants and GTI applicants. Now, GTI applicants' EOI system is totally different than this. It requires you to put in all the evidentiary requirements so they can assess you prior to send you an invitation now. So it's a different procedures now. A lot of people think they are GTI candidates, but they probably won't meet the requirement. But if you do want to know more, I do have an explanation and a video detail on GTI program there. Okay, ranking. This is the interesting part I want to go through with you. Skill independent and skill work regional family sponsored visa. Ranking EOI is relevant to all these visas. I'm not going to read all that. Based on information provided on the EOI. Skill select will ranked intending migrants, so on your points, and then putting you into different in that pool, big pool, but they will putting you aside. So the AI system will putting you into, for example, your category of accountants. Okay, different categories. Or if you want to go to Queensland, they will put you into Queensland group. Okay, or you want to go to New South Wales, they will put you into New South Wales group, and then you'll be ranked within that group. Okay, to ensure that EOI has a unique ranking, equally score EOI means A person score 80 points, B person score 80 points, are separated by dates and time. So if the points are the same, who will be picked first? Obviously, the person who has been submitted their EOI earlier than the one has submitted later. Okay, so that's how that will work. But if someone, so A person and B person have 80 points, but if a C person came in the latest, but he has 85 points in the same category, then he will jump ahead of the queue and he will be picked. Okay, so that's how that system will work. So due to points change in Schedule 6D on November 16th of 2019, Skill Select will automatically update points and eligible EOI. So that what sort of change was that one? That was the points introduced for single person and the partner qualification and things like that. Okay, the EOI is returned to draft status if Skill Select determine the intending migrant is no longer eligible. Okay, so that's how the system will work. Okay. Now, the state and territory government nominate GSM, so General Skill Migration and Business. Ranking does not apply to EOI for visa that require state and territory. Very interesting. But look, it's not required for the immigration to rank it anymore. But they will categorize, for example, if you want to go to Victoria, they will put all the people in Victoria who had picked Victoria as their preferred state to go. And they will then give it to Victoria. So Victoria government they will have their own state ranking system. Okay, it's basically saying immigration won't rank for the state and territory government, but the state and territory government do have their own criteria. I'm not gonna say ranking, but it's more than likely they will rank it anyway. Okay, so EOI eligibility. as we know that it has 2 years of eligibility once you submit it. I mean, that's validity, okay, but eligibility, it's always going to be there as long as it pass mark, but the validity is going to be 2 years. Invitation to apply the skill work regional family sponsor. Now that is obviously the power to issue the invitation from the minister. The power is exercised through skill select system, and that's for if you have a relative who are settled in regional Australia. They can nominate, they can help you to actually add more points, and that's under the family sponsor migration. Okay, so I've done a video on this one as well in detail. So this is, again, it's basically saying if you are a skilled migrant and you intended to go to regional Australia, which you have relative living in that region, no problem, they can actually add more point for you. Okay, invitation for skill independent and skill work regional family sponsor. Isn't that the same? Okay, they just copy and over. Okay, anyway, so how that will work, summary process issuing invitation invitation round anticipated 11th day of each month, and invitation are issued to the EOI highest point. Again, even though you have a family or relative in regional Australia, your point are still being ranked. Okay, so that's how it works. It's the same for business visa as well, so investor visas, that's the same how that will work. The period of validity, so once you're invited, you get 60 days to actually lodge. If 60 day lapse, people ask me what happened after 60 days. Well, it means you forfeit the opportunity that government invites you and you basically is not responding. It's like you go into a job interview and the employer has sent you a letter saying, well, welcome, okay, we love you to join our our company or corporation to work, and then you basically not even turn up. You don't even respond back. So obviously the opportunity will then given to someone else. So every occupation would have a ceiling. However, these 2 years the ceiling had never got reached. Well, basically because the pandemic. So as we have, if you follow my channel long enough, you may notice that the upcoming trend for the skill migration, they probably and very likely to open up for more quota for skill migration in the future to actually save the economy, especially this year we're facing Omicron going all the way nationwide in Australia. I think only Western Australia hasn't really seen that sort of outbreak, but look, it's sooner or later, because Western Australia, sooner or later they're going to open their border. Once that's done, that's open. Anyhow, I'm not going to comment too much on that one, but be safe and travel in with your safety gear on, like mask and things like that, and make sure you get vaccinated. Entry to Australia after submission of EOI. If an intending migrant is outside Australia at the time of EOI submission, this does not preclude they can apply another visa. So it's you're free to do anything. So there is no restriction that if you lodge it offshore, then you have to wait offshore. No, if you lodge your EOI offshore, you can still be onshore, but I think this time of year with the pandemic, it's going to be very hard. First of all, you need to find air tickets, and they're expensive. Okay, 15 invitation process is not merit reviewable, means if you're not invited, you cannot go into a authority like AAT to actually review or complain. It's not reviewable. It's a selecting system. It's like going to a job interview. If you're not being picked, you cannot complain or review on the selection of the employer about your background, right? Anyway, so that's about it. All the other part is all definition and the crap. So anyway, this video actually, let's summarize this. This video actually go through the detailed policy and procedure instruction for the skill migration category, how the immigration officer actually go through each one of EOI, each one of candidate's background, how you're ranked. So I think it's again, this is for 2022. Probably had done a video like this, and there's a lot of explanation out there again, but I'd like to review that again so that you may have more clear face and a clear information and image about how your future of skill migration to Australia will be like. Anyhow, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.